Have you ever felt completely lost, as if circumstances were out of control and life was always trying to bring you down? The fear of the future, the weight of decisions, constant criticism. It all seems to be a cycle that never ends. The problem is that without proper control, you become a hostage to chaos. Life will continue to test you, and without the right mindset, you could end up succumbing to these challenges. Now, imagine being in the middle of turbulence and still standing firm, with an unshakable peace that nothing can take away from you. This is not a fantasy, but a skill you can cultivate. The secret lies in understanding that it's not external circumstances that affect you, but how you choose to react to them. The problem is that until you learn to control your reactions, the world will continue to crush you. In this video, we're going to reveal 10 Stoic principles so that nothing can affect you. These teachings from Epictetus will show you how to take the power out of negative situations, making you unbreakable. Because the truth is that if you continue to be dominated by fear, insecurity, and emotions, you will lose yourself in the midst of adversity. Without control, you'll be at the mercy of everything that comes from outside, always vulnerable and worn down. The point is simple. Either you learn to master your mind and your reactions now, or the world will continue to dictate how you feel. Are you ready to finally stop being held hostage by circumstances and start living with inner strength? The choice is yours. You can continue to be swept along by the waves of life or learn to navigate with an unperturbed mind. Don't wait any longer to take charge of your destiny. Now, let's explore 10 Stoic principles so nothing can affect you and transform the way you see the world. Are you ready to become unbreakable? Then let's get to the 10 Stoic principles so that nothing can affect you. But first, make sure you're already subscribed to the channel, because here I'm going to bring you a series of videos to help you control your emotions and live with more inner peace. Principle 1. Have firm purposes. Epictetus, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, believed that life's adversities are not just obstacles, but opportunities to reveal our true character. He said that when we face difficulties, what really matters is not the intensity of the challenge, but our willingness to face it. True glory comes from the effort required to overcome difficulties, and the greater the challenge, the greater the satisfaction in overcoming it. He compared this to skilled pilots who only gain recognition and respect when they face storms, not when they are in calm waters. When you have a clear and firm purpose, life's obstacles cease to be insurmountable threats. Instead, they become steps you must climb to reach your goal. If your purpose is strong enough, the challenges along the way become something to be overcome, not something to be feared. Purpose acts as a foundation that supports your inner strength, creating a solid base that allows you to face life's storms with determination. Having a purpose means not only having a clear vision, but also the courage and discipline to follow it, even when things get tough. This commitment to your values and goals is what gives you resilience in the face of difficulties. With a firm purpose, you acquire an inner strength that nothing can shake. Historical example, Winston Churchill, during the Second World War, perfectly exemplified the concept of having a firm purpose. His objective was clear: to save the United Kingdom from the Nazi advance. Even in the face of a devastating war and enormous difficulties, his unwavering leadership strengthened the national spirit and kept the population focused on the fight, turning adversity into an engine for his vision of victory. Principle 2. Control your mind. Epictetus always emphasized that true freedom comes not from controlling the events around us, but from controlling how we react to them. He believed that our inner peace depends directly on our ability to master our mind and thoughts. Our greatest power lies in choosing how we respond to any situation. We can't control what others say or do, but we can control our reactions and attitudes. This control over the mind doesn't mean suppressing our emotions, but rather having the ability to direct them consciously. Instead of being guided by impulses and automatic reactions, we can pause and reflect before acting. This gives us the freedom to choose the response that most closely aligns with our values and goals, rather than being held hostage by the moment or the opinion of others. In a world where distractions and external influences are constant, the ability to keep the mind calm and focused is more important than ever. Epictetus teaches us that true peace comes from within, and the first step to achieving it is learning to master the incessant flow of thoughts that invade our mind. By doing this, we gain the freedom to act with wisdom, calm, and discernment, regardless of what happens around us. Practical example: imagine being in a stressful situation at work, where many things are out of your control. A large part of the discomfort comes from your emotional reaction to these circumstances. If you allow these feelings of frustration or anxiety to take over your mind, your peace will be lost. However, if you choose not to let yourself be overwhelmed, if you can reflect on the situation and react calmly, you will be exercising control over your own mind, and thus your freedom. Principle 3. Don't let offensive words affect you. Epictetus taught that although we cannot control what others say or think about us, we can choose how to react to their words and attitudes. The offenses we receive have no power over our peace of mind, unless we allow them to. When someone offends us, what causes us suffering is not the words themselves, but the way we interpret and react to them. The key to dealing with offensive words lies in reflection. If someone says something negative about you, before getting carried away by anger or sadness, ask yourself, is this true? How can I react in a wise and serene way? Epictetus argued that the words of others have no power over our happiness, unless we give them that power. Our emotional response to these words is ultimately our choice. This principle helps us realize that emotional suffering often comes from our own perception. Criticism or offense, rather than being an external aggression, becomes an opportunity to practice self-control, patience, and, ultimately, personal growth. Instead of reacting impulsively, we can use this situation to reflect and strengthen our inner resilience. Historical example: the Roman philosopher Seneca, who was also a great Stoic, faced countless criticisms and provocations during his life, but always maintained a calm and controlled attitude. In his letters and writings, he stressed that when the words of others hit us, the best thing to do is to remember that someone else's opinion does not define who we are. By internalizing this lesson, we can avoid falling into the trap of being offended. So, had you heard about these Stoic principles? Did you know that they can be the key to controlling your emotions and maintaining inner peace? Let me know in the comments if you've ever been through something similar, or if you know someone who has faced these challenges. I want to know what you think and I'll help you there. Principle 4. Pain comes from our reaction, not from offenses. Epictetus believed that external offenses have no power over us unless we allow them to affect us. The real source of pain is not in the words or actions of others, but in how we choose to react to them. Often, we are seized by an instant emotional reaction, such as anger, sadness, or frustration, which only arises because we have interpreted the situation in a negative way. However, if we can look at this reaction in a more rational and considered way, we can prevent it from controlling us. Stoicism teaches us that our inner peace depends on our ability to control how we react to external events. If someone offends us, the pain arises not because we were offended, but because we chose to internalize that offense and let it hurt us. Instead of allowing the offense to determine our reaction, we can choose to reflect, learn, and respond calmly. By doing so, we take control of the situation and prevent the pain from being caused by our own interpretation. Stoic philosophy teaches us to use criticism and offense as opportunities for growth. Every uncomfortable situation is a chance to practice emotional self-reliance and serenity. When we become more aware of the nature of our reaction, we respond more wisely and less impulsively. Practical example: imagine a coworker who makes an unpleasant comment. Instead of responding with anger or resentment, you choose to pause and reflect. Does this really affect me? Or is it just a momentary reaction that I can control? With this awareness, you can keep your peace and not be overwhelmed by emotion, using this situation as a chance to practice self-control. Principle 5. Use criticism as an opportunity for growth. Epictetus teaches us that the way we react to criticism is a direct reflection of our emotional maturity. He believed that criticism, far from being something to avoid or fear, is a valuable opportunity for learning and personal growth. When someone criticizes us, the immediate reaction can be defensiveness or even anger. However, by adopting a Stoic mindset, we can turn criticism into something constructive, using it to reflect on our own behaviors and improve them. Instead of seeing criticism as a personal attack, we can see it as a chance to understand how others perceive us. This doesn't mean accepting everything passively or agreeing with everything that is said to us, but rather evaluating whether there is anything in the criticism that can really help us to improve. The Stoic reaction is to evaluate criticism rationally, without letting it discourage us or make us lose focus. Throughout our journey, we are all susceptible to failures and mistakes. Well-meaning criticism, when viewed with humility, can show us areas where we can improve and become better versions of ourselves. This kind of insight not only improves our personal development, but also strengthens our emotional resilience as we become less sensitive to other people's opinions. Historical example: the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius himself, one of the most famous Stoics, faced a lot of criticism and challenges during his reign. Despite this, he wrote in his dialogues about how he used criticism to improve his leadership. He always tried to reflect on whether there was any truth in the criticism he received, and so he evolved as a leader and as a human being, becoming more balanced and wiser. Principle 6. Accept what cannot be controlled. Epictetus teaches us that serenity and inner peace are achieved when we learn to distinguish between what we can and cannot control. We often spend our energy trying to change what is out of our reach, such as other people's actions, the weather, or even the past. This only brings us frustration and suffering because these things are not under our control. However, what is under our responsibility, our own actions, thoughts, and reactions, is where we should focus our energy. True power lies in accepting reality as it is, without trying to fight it or resist it. When we accept what we cannot change, we find freedom. Freedom not to be held hostage by external circumstances. This doesn't mean passive resignation, but an active attitude of focusing on what we can improve, our mind and our choices. As Epictetus said, it is not the things that disturb us, but the way we see them. Accepting what we cannot control also means having the humility to understand that there are limits to our influence in the world. Wisdom lies in knowing when to fight and when to accept. This not only saves us the pain of trying to control the uncontrollable, but also gives us the clarity to focus on the things that can really make a difference. Practical example: imagine that you have lost an important opportunity at work or in your personal life. The pain of this loss can be intense, but it's pointless trying to change what has already happened. What you can control, however, is how you choose to deal with the situation. You can learn from the experience, focus on new opportunities, and use the loss as fuel to move forward. Principle 7. Happiness does not come from outside, but from within. Epictetus always emphasized that true happiness does not depend on external circumstances, but on our own mind and attitudes. In a world where we constantly seek external validation, whether through money, status, or possessions, Stoicism teaches us to turn our attention inwards. Lasting happiness lies not in the things we can touch or possess, but in how we choose to see the world and relate to it. The philosopher said that inner tranquility comes from accepting that the only thing we really control is our mind. This means that, regardless of external situations, we can find contentment by changing our perspective. True wealth is inner peace, and it cannot be bought or earned by material means. Epictetus taught that by cultivating virtues such as wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, we can find a form of happiness that does not depend on external factors. This happiness is immutable because it comes from within, from the way we react to what life presents us. When we manage to live in harmony with our own nature and with the laws of the universe, we achieve a state of contentment that nothing and no one can take away from us. Practical example: imagine that you have obtained a significant raise at work or purchased an item of your dreams. Initially, you may feel happy, but this happiness will probably be temporary. True well-being arises when we manage, in any situation, to maintain an attitude of gratitude and serenity, regardless of material possessions or the circumstances around us. When we seek internal peace, external fluctuations don't affect us in the same way. Well, we're halfway through the content, and I've noticed that you haven't liked this video yet. This is super important so that YouTube continues to promote our content, and so that we can help you more and more. So, leave a like, it's free, right? Now, moving on. Principle 8. Virtue is our greatest good. Epictetus and other Stoic philosophers, such as Seneca and Marcus Aurelius, taught that virtue is the supreme good, the essence of a good life. For the Stoics, being virtuous means acting according to reason, seeking wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance at all times. Virtue is what defines our true happiness, not external circumstances or material goods. Epictetus emphasized that our actions should be guided by reason, not by impulses or passing emotions. Reason connects us with our deepest nature and with the natural order of the universe. When we act with virtue, our choices reflect our highest values, and it is through them that we find true peace and satisfaction. Virtue is not something that can be achieved instantly, but rather a continuous path of personal development. By focusing on living according to the principles of virtue, we can face life's difficulties with serenity, since our true happiness doesn't depend on what happens around us, but rather on how we react to these situations. When we align ourselves with virtue, we become more resilient and unshakable, because we know that true greatness lies in the quality of our character, and not in external circumstances. Historical example, Marcus Aurelius, during his reign, faced countless battles, both internal and external. However, he wrote in his meditations that the most important thing for him was to cultivate virtue, because he believed that by acting with virtue, he approached a state of wisdom and tranquility, regardless of the challenges he faced. Principle 9. Focus on the present, not the past or future. Epictetus taught that true freedom lies in the present. Worrying too much about what happened in the past or what might happen in the future prevents us from living fully in the present moment. Often, we cling to regret for something we've done, or anxiety about what's to come. However, both are just distractions that take our focus away from the only moment we have control over, the now. When we are fully present, we can act more clearly and effectively. Epictetus suggested that we should focus on what is immediate and achievable, rather than spending our energy on what we cannot change. Living in the present gives us the ability to react more calmly and rationally to circumstances, without being dragged down by unnecessary worries. It also involves accepting that the past is gone and that the future has not yet arrived. If we get stuck on what we can't change, such as past mistakes or future fears, we are wasting our vital energy. The real power lies in enjoying the present moment, learning from what has happened, planning what we can, but always with our minds focused on the now. Practical example, suppose you're preparing for a big event or challenge. Instead of getting caught up in the fear of failure or worrying about what happened before, you focus on the actions you can take in the present. You prepare with dedication, without burdening yourself with the future, because you know that you can only control what you do now. The act of concentrating on the present becomes a resource of strength and mental clarity. 10. Maintain your tradition. Even in the face of adversity, Epictetus emphasized that we must be firm in our principles, even when external circumstances seem to challenge us. He believed that by living according to reason and Stoic values, we should not deviate from our virtue, regardless of the obstacles that come our way. Adversity, rather than diverting us from our tradition and values, should be seen as an opportunity to demonstrate our resilience and commitment to the principles we defend. For Epictetus, character is formed in moments of difficulty. When we face challenges, we are tested, and the way we react to them determines who we really are. He taught that by standing firm in the face of adversity, we are not only preserving our dignity, but also setting an example for others. True strength lies not in avoiding problems, but in maintaining our integrity while facing them. Of course, living according to reason is not always easy. Often, the temptation to act impulsively or give in to emotions is strong, especially when we are under pressure. However, as Epictetus says, it is not the circumstances that make us suffer, but our way of reacting to them. Therefore, maintaining the tradition of living with wisdom, courage, and self-control, even in the face of adversity, is the path to true inner freedom. Practical example. Imagine a situation in which you face unfair criticism or are challenged to follow a path that goes against your principles. Instead of giving in to pressure or responding impulsively, the Stoic keeps his cool and acts on the basis of his values, knowing that his true strength comes from his ability to maintain integrity, regardless of external circumstances. Now that you know the 10 Stoic principles, it's time to turn this knowledge into action. Remember, the key is not in what happens around you, but in how you react to what happens. Epictetus teaches us that true strength comes from internal control, the power to choose how to respond to life's situations. Challenges won't stop appearing, but with the right mindset, you can turn them into opportunities for growth. It's not about changing the world, but changing the way you position yourself in the face of it. Adopting Stoic principles will help you face any storm with serenity. Stay focused on the things that really matter and live more calmly, regardless of what happens around you. So, the question is, are you ready to take control and start living with more freedom and inner strength? Because the choice is in your hands, don't let another day go by without applying these principles to your life. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on upcoming content that will help you continue on the path of self-development. See you in the next video.